We're back at it. This area up here did good. I ended up making another piece here. I extended it. I wanted to take care of this section up here a little bit. Got these pit. See, with all the multiple holes, I've moved it a few times. So now I need to, you probably can't see, but I got to sand the backside. And then I'll sand my bonding strips, make them receptive to the glue. Then we'll screw them all together and let it dry overnight. I need to get the backside of the panels scuffed up. Takes the glaze off from the gel coat and the dirt and wear and tear over the years, and makes a what I call a soft surface, I guess. Gives something for the resin to bite into, and then some tooth from the grinding disc, so that all the glues have something to grab. Went ahead and did a little bit more. Got this piece glued in. These pieces are not glued in yet. They're just used to set the gap here. But I noticed that I was still had good access to all of this damage up here in the nose. So before I close this opening, ground all that out, filled it up with mat, and glued this corner down while I had access. So let this dry. Tomorrow I'll come out, work on this section, probably almost cut this one out so I can get all of the fractured areas. This broke loose here, I need to address, and this broke loose here, I need to address. And that'll give me a little bit of framework so I can figure out how to support all that. And once all that's done, then it's just a matter of putting on the proper fillers, making everything shaped to fit. So we're pretty much over the hump. Catch you in the morning. And here we are, another morning. We're going to start the process of building the area that is missing. There's another view of the nose piece that I glued together. Access to put the reinforcement plate behind this hinge plate was non-existent. This wood crush zone device is pretty well perished, so the owner gave me permission. In fact, he suggested it, that I cut an access hole so I could stick my hand up in there and put the plate behind it. So we will continue on with some gluing, see where we end up. I had meant to get the camera on for some of this, but I gotta admit that once I get the art activator in the resin and I get my gloves on, I get my mind focused on getting this done before it sets up, even though I got plenty of time and I forgot. But anyway, I'm gluing this piece in, not this piece yet. I've got the junction here, get kind of this, and then I'm going to lay some glass in this area in here, and we'll see how long it takes to set up and go from there. No new action. The process is the same. I take and get the areas prepped, mix up a combination of resin and fiberglass strands and talc powder to keep it from being so runny. I try to get a coat onto the material first, and then I start laying the mat in. The mat has random strands running in all directions, and when you get the resin saturated all the way through it, it makes a very strong bond. And that's what I'm doing with the paintbrush, is just dabbing it and observing the material until it looks fully saturated with no glaring voids. First piece is starting to set up to where I feel comfortable that I'm not going to disturb it. So take that remaining corner piece and attach it. The holes that I had drilled to hold it down locates it back to where everything looked good, and the process is repeated. Put on the glue, put the glue on the piece, screw it in place, and let it dry. And then I take the area where it was broken, and I had already ground it down to where it was nicely V'd out. Yeah, lay in the glass and the resin and bond the sections together. Once again, once the glued areas are starting to set up, I'm finding something else to work on. So I'm taking my little Dremel here and shaping the lip that holds the body side molding and hides the bonding seam from the factory. Starting to put things to get closer to where they need to be and see what I need to add. After checking the other side, the profile of the fender arch is pretty much on the same plane. So I've got a nice long board with some 80 grit paper on it. Kind of block it in and get a place to start. Okay, while this is all setting up, it's getting hard quite nicely. I decided to address this delamination along this lip, and we have discovered a case of what my brother's Triumph Club finally refers to as the DPO, the dreaded previous owner. So I knew this had been hit before, looks like in a similar situation, and these are some of the repairs. I mean, it's not as good as it could be, but let's face it, it lasted until the next collision, so who's to criticize too much? But it is a problem for me now, and I think it's been some of the problem I've been addressing this hood fitment, is I'm trying to fix two wrecks with one wreck already glued together. But I haven't given up yet, so we're still digging into it, sort of Indiana Jones style, and see what we find. I'm sure it's shown up in a couple of videos here, and I may have mentioned it earlier. My brother and I are doing a frame-off rotisserie restoration of a '68 Triumph TR250, and this here is my brother's actual car he did several years ago, and his Triumph Club put out a calendar and put this in for him. So I got plenty of projects in the garage. Okay, well, we'll get back to this one and continue on. That piece of fiberglass in the repair is not bonded very well to the inner wheel well, so I'm just going to remove it. That way I'll do away with any misalignment that it may be causing on the outer panel. I don't see where it was needed, other than they were just trying to do something by reaching up from in the headlight area to put some reinforcement in that area, because they didn't cut it out like I've done, which I may not have cut it out when they were fixing it either, but since what I have here is already broken up and broken out, I don't see any problem with me moving things for access. I was rummaging around in my Dremel tool collection and came onto this thing. It looks like a little drill bit, but it's really a cutting tool. I'm sure it was probably designed for things like cutting out and opening in drywall. It's got cutting edges all down the sides and across the end, and it worked out real well for reaching in the nooks and crannies there and getting things cleaned up and ready for adhesion. More of the same prep work here. Just scuffing up all the areas that I'm going to pack in the glue filled material. Make sure everything has a place to bite and to soak in where it can. Got my bonding solution mixed up and cramming it into all the areas that have broken loose, building it up behind it where I'd cleaned with the Dremel tool. Then when I set the new piece on top of it, everything should bond nicely. Made a couple little wood shims, approximately a 32nd of an inch thick. That was the same thickness as my cutoff wheel, so that I can put the piece in and have it spaced out the same way that it was, instead of being out of alignment because of the space of the blade. And that should help keep the curvature of that wheel well a little easier to maintain. And I still had a little material left over, so being nice and frugal, I'll continue to build that lip for the molding. And while I have access, taking a paint stick, smooshing all the material in, making sure that there's no air gaps. And I took out my little shim, feathered out the gap that the cut's already made, and since I can't get in there and put any reinforcing material in it, I grind it down wafer thin and then build it back up. And by doing this now, when I take the clamp off, it should hold everything in place so that I can do the same thing to the rest of the cut. pretty good progress for today. Lots of gluing up. Things are getting stiffer. Tomorrow I'll glue in this piece, smooth this down, put in the other hinge that I took out, put that back in probably permanently. I've gone ahead and laid me out a grid, and I'll try to duplicate on the other side. This will help me make the different contours. And I'll duplicate the grid over here best that I can, concerning what's missing. And that hopefully will give me some indication where all this missing fiberglass needs to be. I say it jokingly, but mostly on these projects like this, I just tear into them and wait for inspiration. And that's basically where we're at. I'm liable to change my plan 4 or 5 times before I finally settle on something that's probably a combination of 2 or 3 of the plans. But it's making progress, and that's a good thing. So, see you on the next video. Should be in the morning. So once again, thanks for watching.